Maya Rodriguez wiped grease from her hands onto her already stained jumpsuit and stared at the smoking remains of what used to be the Cosmic Nexus's dragon detection array. Again. Third time this month, actually, but who was counting? Well, Maya was counting, because she was the one who kept fixing the damn thing. "Oh, wonderful," came the melodious voice of Commander Vex Thul from behind her. The 7-foot-tall reptilian had perfected the art of sounding condescending in 17 different languages, including Standard Galactic. "The primitive human has broken our equipment again." Maya didn't turn around. She'd learned that facing Vex Thul directly just encouraged his dramatics. "Actually, Commander, scales for brains, your equipment broke itself. I'm just the one trying to keep it from exploding and taking half the station with it." A crystalline chime filled the air as Dr. Quilnara floated into the maintenance bay. The living crystal formation somehow managed to look smug despite having no actual face. Perhaps if you understood the theoretical frameworks underlying quantum dragon resonance technology, you wouldn't resort to such crude methods. Crude methods? Maya grabbed her toolbox and pulled out a roll of duct tape. "You mean the crude method that's kept this bucket of bolts operational for the past 6 months while you've been writing papers about theoretical dragon behavior?" Technician Grox buzzed his wings in what passed for laughter among his species. The insectoid's massive frame filled the doorway as he clicked his mandibles. "Ha, human think tape fix everything. Next, she suggests hitting with hammer." Maya grinned. "Don't tempt me, bug boy. I've got a really nice hammer in here somewhere." Commander Vex Thul's tail lashed behind him, a sure sign his patience was wearing thin. This is precisely why humans shouldn't be allowed on advanced research stations. You lack the sophistication to understand complex technology. "Complex technology," Maya muttered, already pulling apart the array's housing. "You know what's complex? Making something that works. You know what's really complex? Making something that keeps working when it gets shot at, shaken around, and filled with space dust." She started stripping wires with practiced efficiency. "But hey, what do I know? I'm just the human who's been keeping your fancy dragon detector running while you three argue about whose species invented hyperspace first." Dr. Quilnara's crystalline structure flickered with irritation. "The theoretical basis for our approach is sound. Dragons are sophisticated beings with advanced energy signatures. They require sophisticated detection methods." "Sophisticated," Maya repeated, wrapping exposed wires with duct tape. "Right, because nothing says sophisticated like equipment that breaks if you look at it wrong." The truth was, Maya had been studying dragons longer than any of them realized. While her crewmates focused on their advanced degrees and superior alien intellects, she'd been reading every scrap of information about dragons she could find. And one thing kept coming up in the old human accounts. Dragons weren't impressed by fancy technology. They were impressed by results. "You know what?" Maya stood up, brushing dust off her knees. "Keep your sophisticated equipment. I'll stick with my primitive human solutions. At least when I fix something, it stays fixed." Commander Vex Thul's reptilian features twisted into what might have been a smile. "How fortunate for you that you won't have the opportunity to embarrass our species further. The expedition to Draconis Prime launches tomorrow, and the crew manifest is already finalized." "Let me guess," Maya said, already knowing the answer. "The 3 most qualified beings in the galaxy?" "Precisely. This mission requires the finest minds and most advanced technology available. We cannot afford primitive solutions when dealing with the legendary dragons of Draconis Prime." Drox buzzed agreement. "Humans stay here. Fix broken things. Leave important work to real scientists." Maya watched them leave, their superior attitudes practically trailing behind them like cloaks. She turned back to the dragon detection array and gave it an experimental tap with her wrench. The display flickered to life, showing a steady green signal. "Dragons," she said to the empty maintenance bay. "Yeah, I bet you're going to love meeting these 3 geniuses." The next morning, Maya watched from the observation deck as the research vessel Galactic Pride departed for Draconis Prime. Commander Vex Thul had insisted on using the station's most advanced ship, equipped with the latest in shield technology, sensor arrays, and what he called diplomatic contact protocols. Maya had her doubts about those protocols. 3 days later, her doubts were confirmed when the emergency beacon started screaming. Mayday, Mayday. This is Galactic Pride. Commander Vexthol's voice crackled through the static. We have multiple system failures. Shields are down, sensors are offline, and we're going down hard. Maya rushed to the communications console. Vexthol, this is Maya. What's your status? Oh, now you're interested? Came Dr. Quilnara's voice, though she sounded significantly less smug than usual. We've crashed on Draconis Prime. All our sophisticated equipment is malfunctioning. Define malfunctioning, Maya said, already pulling up the emergency protocols. Grox's voice buzzed with panic. Everything broken. Shields exploded. Sensors making angry noises, landing very not smooth. Maya bit back a laugh. Okay. Are you hurt? Physically, we're intact, Vexthol replied. But our equipment... It's as if the planet itself is rejecting our technology. Nothing works properly here. Except, came a new voice, deep and amused, the interesting little backup systems that keep functioning despite our atmospheric interference. Maya's blood ran cold. That wasn't one of her crewmates. Who was that? She demanded. That, Vexthol said in a very small voice, was one of the dragons. They've been watching us for hours. Apparently they find our equipment failures quite entertaining. The dragon's voice came through the comm again. Indeed, we've observed many species arrive here with their marvelous technology. Most of it fails spectacularly. Yet someone on your vessel had the wisdom to install backup systems that actually function. Maya's jury-rigged emergency systems. The ones she'd installed against regulations because she didn't trust the standard equipment. The ones her crewmates had mocked as primitive human paranoia. Tell me, small beings, the dragon continued, who among you built these functional systems? There was a long pause. Maya could practically hear her crewmates' discomfort through the comm. That would be our human engineer, Vexthol admitted reluctantly. Ah, the dragon sounded pleased. The human. How interesting. We would like to meet this human. Bring her to us. Now wait just a minute, Dr. Quilnara interjected. We are the senior officers here. We have advanced degrees in xenobiology and diplomatic protocols. Surely you'd prefer to speak with qualified representatives of our respective species. The dragon's laughter rumbled through the comm like distant thunder. Your qualified representatives are currently trapped in a crashed ship, surrounded by their own malfunctioning technology. Your human systems are the only reason you're still alive. Maya was already suiting up. I'm on my way. Maya, you can't be serious, Vexthol protested. These are dragons. Ancient, powerful beings. They require a delicate diplomatic approach. Right, Maya said, checking her emergency kit. Because your delicate diplomatic approach is working so well. How's that sophisticated equipment treating you? She could hear Grox buzzing nervously in the background. Maybe humans should stay away. Dragons very big. Very scary. Maybe eat humans. Maybe, Maya agreed cheerfully. But somebody's got to get you 3 geniuses off that planet. And since your fancy technology decided to take a vacation, looks like it's going to be me and my primitive human solutions. The dragon's voice came through one more time. We will be waiting, human engineer. And do bring your tools. We have a feeling you'll need them. Maya's shuttle touched down on Draconis Prime 6 hours later, and she had to admit the planet was impressive. Towering crystalline formations jutted from the landscape like frozen lightning, and the air itself seemed to shimmer with barely contained energy. No wonder the advanced alien technology had failed here. She found her crewmates huddled around the wreck of the Galactic Pride, looking very small and very uncomfortable. The ship's hull was cracked, systems sparking, and the entire vessel listed to one side like a wounded animal. Maya, Vexthol rushed toward her, his usual pompous demeanor replaced by obvious relief. Thank the stars you're here. These dragons, they're actually quite intimidating. Intimidating? Maya looked around. Where are they? Everywhere. Dr. Quilnara's crystalline form flickered with anxiety. They've been watching us. Waiting. It's most unsettling. A shadow passed overhead and Maya looked up to see 3 massive shapes circling in the sky. Dragons. Real, honest-to-goodness dragons, each one the size of a small building, with scales that seemed to catch and reflect light like living jewels. Oh, Maya said. Those dragons. The largest of the 3 landed with earth-shaking force about 50 yards away. Its scales were deep gold flecked with silver, and its eyes held an intelligence that made Maya's spine tingle. This was Elder Pyraxis, she realized, the leader of the Dragon Council. Human engineer. The dragon's voice resonated through the air without moving its mouth. Telepathic communication, Maya noted. You have arrived. That I have, Maya replied, walking forward while her crewmates huddled behind her. I hear you wanted to meet me. The second dragon landed, this one with scales like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed like embers. I am Voltara. We have been observing your companion's attempts at diplomacy. Oh, this should be good, Maya muttered. The third dragon, smaller than the others but with scales that shifted color like an aurora, landed with what could only be described as a smirk. I am Zephyros. Your friends have been most educational. They've spent the last 6 hours explaining why their technology is superior to our ancient ways. Maya glanced back at her crewmates. Let me guess. They told you about their advanced degrees? Multiple times, Zephyros replied dryly, along with detailed explanations of their species' technological achievements and their sophisticated understanding of dragon psychology. Dragon psychology, Maya repeated. Right. And how's that working out for them? Elder Pyraxis's massive head tilted slightly. They seem to believe that dragons are primitive beings who will be impressed by flashy displays of technology. Whereas you, Voltara added, have spent your time examining our atmospheric energy patterns and adapting your shuttle systems to compensate for the interference. Maya shrugged. Seemed like the smart thing to do. No point in having fancy equipment if it doesn't work. Indeed, Elder Pyraxis rumbled approvingly. Walk with us, human engineer. We have much to discuss. As they walked, Maya noticed something interesting. The dragon's lair wasn't some primitive cave, but a sophisticated complex carved into the living rock. The architecture was elegant, functional, and completely integrated with the natural environment. Nice place, Maya said. Did you build this? Over many centuries, Zephyros replied. We prefer function over flash. Unlike your companions who seem to believe that more complex automatically means better. They entered a vast chamber where other dragons waited, forming a semicircle around what was clearly a place of honor. Maya's crewmates were escorted in behind her, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Now then, Elder Pyraxis began, we have a small problem. Our ancient heating system has been malfunctioning, and the temperature in our deep chambers has become quite uncomfortable. Your companions have offered to fix it using their advanced technology. Maya glanced at the system in question. It was elegant in its simplicity, a series of crystal conduits that channeled geothermal energy throughout the complex. The problem was obvious to anyone who'd spent time working with actual equipment instead of just studying it. Let me guess, Maya said. They want to replace the whole system with something more sophisticated? Precisely, Voltara confirmed. They insist that our methods are primitive and inefficient. Maya pulled out her tools and walked over to the heating system. Mind if I take a look? Be our guest, Zephyros said, while Maya's crewmates protested in the background. Maya, you can't just start dismantling their equipment, Dr. Quilnara chimed urgently. This requires careful analysis and proper theoretical frameworks. Theoretical frameworks, Maya muttered, already identifying the problem. You know what this needs? A new pressure valve and some basic maintenance. She pulled out her spare parts kit, selected a valve that was close enough to the original specifications, and made a few adjustments with her tools. 20 minutes later, warm air began flowing through the chamber again. There, Maya said, standing up and dusting off her hands. Good as new. Well, better than new, actually. That valve should last another few centuries. The dragons exchanged glances that somehow conveyed volumes of meaning. Tell us, human engineer, Elder Pyraxis said slowly, why did you not attempt to replace our entire system with your technology? Maya looked at him like he'd asked why she didn't try to fix a leaky faucet with explosives. Because your system works fine. It just needed maintenance. Why would I replace something that works? Because Commander Vexthul interjected desperately. Human technology is clearly inferior to both dragon technology and our own advanced systems. Maya turned to stare at him. Right, our inferior technology. That's why my systems are the only ones still working on your crashed ship. The dragon's laughter filled the chamber like rolling thunder. Human engineer, Elder Pyraxis said once the laughter died down, you have passed our test. Maya blinked. Test? What test? The same test we give to all who come to our world, Volterra explained. We observe how they react to challenges, how they treat technology, and whether they see solutions or just opportunities to show off. Zephyros's scales shimmered with amusement. Your companions failed spectacularly. They spent their time explaining why their methods were superior while ignoring the actual problems in front of them. You, Elder Pyraxis continued, saw a problem and fixed it. You adapted your technology to work with ours instead of trying to replace it. You showed wisdom, not arrogance. Maya glanced back at her crewmates, who were looking increasingly uncomfortable. So this was all a setup? Not a setup, Volterra corrected. A test. We have been watching the galaxy's spacefaring species for millennia. Most of them make the same mistakes your companions made. They believe that newer automatically means better, that complex automatically means superior. But you, Zephyros added, understand that the best solution is the one that works. Elder Pyraxis stepped forward, his massive presence somehow not threatening but respectful. Maya Rodriguez, human engineer, we formally invite you to join the Dragon Alliance. The silence that followed was deafening. Join the what now? Maya asked. The Dragon Alliance, Elder Pyraxis repeated. An ancient pact between our kind and those rare beings who prove themselves worthy. You would become our official representative to the galaxy with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. Behind Maya, Commander Vexthul made a sound like a deflating balloon. But she's human. She doesn't have advanced degrees or diplomatic training or... She has something more valuable, Volterra interrupted. She has sense. Maya looked around the chamber at the assembled dragons, then back at her crewmates. What would this alliance involve exactly? Knowledge sharing, Zephyros explained. We would teach you our methods, and you would help us understand how to work with the galaxy's other species. A cultural exchange, if you will. Plus, Elder Pyraxis added with what might have been a smile, you would have access to our technology. Real dragon technology, not the flashy nonsense most species develop. Maya's eyes lit up. What kind of technology? The kind that works, Volterra replied simply. Stories. Over the next several hours, Maya learned dragon customs while her former crewmates were relegated to camp maintenance duties. The dragons, it turned out, had developed technology based on principles of efficiency and reliability rather than complexity and showiness. Their ships were elegant, streamlined vessels that could travel between stars without the massive energy requirements of conventional galactic technology. Their communication systems were instantaneous across any distance. Their manufacturing processes could create materials stronger than anything in the known galaxy. And all of it was based on working with natural forces instead of fighting them. This is incredible, Maya said, examining a dragon tool that seemed to shift its function based on what she needed it to do. How is this possible? We learned long ago, Elder Pyraxis explained, that the universe has its own patterns and rhythms. Work with them, and you can accomplish anything. Fight against them, and you'll spend all your energy just maintaining your position. Like your crewmates, Zephyros observed, who spend so much effort proving their superiority that they forget to actually solve problems. Maya glanced over at Vexthul, who was struggling to set up a basic shelter while muttering about inferior human engineering. Yeah, I can see that. So Voltaire asked, will you accept our offer? Maya looked at the dragons, then at her crewmates, then at the incredible technology surrounding her. Do I get to keep my tools? Of course, Elder Pyraxis rumbled with amusement. A craftsman never abandons their tools. Then yes, Maya said, grinning. I accept. The return to Cosmic Nexus was, Maya had to admit, pretty spectacular. The dragon ship that carried them back was a thing of beauty, sleek, efficient, and completely silent as it moved through space. It also happened to be impossible to detect by conventional sensors, which led to some interesting moments when they arrived at the station. Unknown vessel. You are approaching a restricted research facility, came the voice of Station Commander Kalos over the comm. Identify yourself immediately. Maya keyed the communication system. This is Maya Rodriguez, returning from Draconis Prime. Permission to dock? There was a long pause. Maya Rodriguez? But you're supposed to be on the rescue mission. Where's the rescue ship? Didn't need one, Maya replied cheerfully. Turns out the dragons gave us a ride. Dragons? Commander Callus's voice pitched higher. Real dragons? On your ship? Not on my ship, Maya corrected. This is their ship. My ship is back on Cosmic Nexus where I left it. The docking bay was packed when they arrived. It seemed like every being on the station had come to see the dragon ship, and Maya couldn't blame them. The vessel was gorgeous, its hull seeming to shift between different metallic shades depending on the angle of view. But the real show started when Elder Pyraxis emerged from the ship. Maya had forgotten how impressive dragons were until she saw the effect on her fellow station personnel. The massive golden dragon had to duck to fit through the docking bay doors, and his presence filled the space like a contained storm. Greetings, Elder Pyraxis said, his voice carrying easily through the bay. I am Elder Pyraxis of the Dragon Council. We have come to establish formal diplomatic relations with this station. Commander Kalos, a normally composed Thetian, was staring with his mouth open. Diplomatic relations? With us? With your human engineer, Voltaire corrected, stepping out of the ship behind Pyraxis. Maya Rodriguez is now our official representative to the galaxy. The silence that followed was broken by the sound of Commander Vexthul clearing his throat. Surely there's been some mistake. Maya is just a maintenance worker. She doesn't have the proper credentials for diplomatic work. Zephyros emerged from the ship with what could only be described as a predatory smile. Ah yes, the crew members who spent their time explaining why their methods were superior while their ship fell apart around them. Now see here, Dr. Elara interjected, her crystalline form flickering with indignation. We are qualified scientists with advanced degrees and yet, Elder Pyraxis interrupted calmly. Your human engineer was the only one who actually solved problems instead of just talking about them. Maya stepped forward, trying not to grin too widely. Commander Kalos, I'd like to introduce some improvements to our operations. With Dragon technology, we can increase our efficiency by about 300%. 300%? Commander Kalos repeated weakly. At least Maya confirmed. For starters, we can replace the main power core with a Dragon energy crystal. It'll provide more power, last longer, and never need maintenance. That's impossible, Dr. Elara protested. Energy generation requires complex theoretical frameworks and yet Maya said, pulling out a crystal the size of her fist, here it is. This little beauty can power the entire station for the next 1,000 years without hiccuping once. Commander Kalos looked from the crystal to the dragons to Maya. You're serious. Dead serious, Maya confirmed. Dragons don't waste time with theoretical frameworks. They just build things that work. Over the next few hours, Maya demonstrated one dragon innovation after another. Communication crystals that provided instantaneous contact across the galaxy. Manufacturing devices that could create any material needed. transportation systems that made conventional shuttles look like horse-drawn carts. And with each demonstration, the power dynamic on the station shifted a little more. Maya, Commander Vexthul approached her during a quiet moment, his earlier arrogance replaced by obvious nervousness. Perhaps we were too hasty in our earlier assessments of your capabilities. Too hasty? Maya raised an eyebrow. You mean when you called me primitive and said humans shouldn't be allowed on advanced research stations? We may have been overly critical, Dr. Kulnara admitted, floating nearby. Perhaps there's wisdom in your more practical approach. Practical approach, Maya repeated. Right. You know what's practical? Remembering who's been keeping this station running while you've been writing papers about theoretical dragon behavior. Technician Grox buzzed nervously. Human Maya now very important. Grox maybe say nice things about humans before? No, Grox, Maya said pleasantly. You said humans think tape fix everything and suggested I hit things with hammers. Grox remembered differently. The insectoid said hopefully. Maya laughed. Don't worry, Bug Boy. I'm not going to hold grudges, but I am going to make some changes around here. By the end of the day, Maya had been officially appointed as the station's dragon liaison, with authority over all dragon-related research and technology. Her old crewmates found themselves reporting to her, and the irony wasn't lost on anyone. Maya, Commander Kalos said as the day's shift ended, I have to ask, how did you know the dragons would accept you? Maya smiled. I didn't. I just knew that if I were an ancient, powerful being, I'd be more impressed by someone who could actually fix my heating system than by someone who wanted to lecture me about theoretical frameworks. That's it? Commander Kalos asked. Common sense? That's it, Maya confirmed. Common sense. Also known as the rarest thing in the galaxy. 6 months later, Maya stood before the Galactic Council, the most powerful governing body in known space. Representatives from dozens of species filled the massive chamber, their attention focused on the small human at the podium. And perched on her shoulder, looking magnificent and slightly amused, was Zephyros. Honored representatives, Maya began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics, I'm here today to discuss the future of galactic cooperation. Murmurs rippled through the audience. The human who'd somehow become the galaxy's most important diplomat was about to speak, and everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. For too long, Maya continued, our species have competed with each other, each trying to prove their superiority through increasingly complex technology and elaborate displays of advancement. She gestured to the ornate chamber around them. Look at this place. Magnificent, isn't it? Took 50 years to build, requires a massive staff to maintain, and serves one function, making us feel important. More murmurs, some distinctly uncomfortable. The dragons, Maya said, nodding to Zephyros, have been watching us for millennia. They've seen species rise and fall, civilizations collapse under the weight of their own complexity. And they've been waiting for someone to figure out a simple truth. She paused, letting the silence build. The best solution is the one that works. Not the most complex, not the most expensive, not the most theoretically elegant. The one that works. Human Maya speaks truth, Zephyros said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. We have observed many species. Most fail because they focus on appearing advanced rather than actually solving problems. Maya smiled. Which brings me to why I'm here. The Human-Dragon Cooperative is offering a new approach to galactic civilization. Instead of competing with each other, we work together. Instead of building monuments to our own cleverness, we build things that actually help people. She pulled out a small device, no bigger than her palm. This is a dragon-human hybrid communicator. It provides instantaneous translation between any two languages, works across any distance, and will function reliably for approximately 10,000 years. The chamber erupted in excited chatter. How is this possible? Demanded Representative Thylix, a crystalline being not unlike Dr. Kulnara. Such technology would require massive power sources and complex theoretical frameworks. Actually, Maya said, it requires understanding that the universe already provides everything we need. We just have to stop fighting it and start working with it. Impossible, snorted Ambassador Krex, a large reptilian who reminded Maya uncomfortably of Commander Vex Thol. Advanced technology requires advanced understanding. Primitive species cannot simply skip developmental stages. Zephyros's scales shifted to a deeper shade of blue, and his voice carried an edge of steel. Primitive species. Human Maya has accomplished more in 6 months than your species has in 6 centuries. That's quite enough, Maya said calmly. Ambassador Krex, you're right that advanced technology requires advanced understanding. But you're wrong about what kind of understanding matters. She walked down from the podium, moving through the assembled representatives. You see, everyone here is trying to prove they're the smartest, the most advanced, the most sophisticated. But none of you are asking the right question. And what question is that? Asked Counselor Vexara, a being who looked remarkably like a more evolved version of Commander Vex Thol. What actually needs to be done? Maya replied. What problems need solving? What would make life better for the people we're supposed to be serving? She gestured to the chamber around them. This council has been debating trade regulations for the past 3 years. 3 years. Meanwhile, there are colonies going without basic medical supplies because the shipping routes are too complex to coordinate. Those are complex issues, protested Representative Thylix. They require careful consideration and proper theoretical frameworks. They require ships and people willing to fly them, Maya countered. The Dragons have offered to help coordinate supply runs using their transportation network. We could solve the medical supply crisis in a month. And in return? Asked Ambassador Krex suspiciously. In return, Maya said, we stop treating each other like competitors and start treating each other like neighbors. The debate that followed was intense, but Maya had expected that. Change was never easy, especially when it challenged fundamental assumptions about how things should work. In the end, though, the results spoke for themselves. The human-dragon cooperatives projects were working. Colonies were receiving supplies. Communication between species was improving. Problems were being solved instead of just discussed. Very well, Counselor Vexara said finally. The Council will consider your proposals. Actually, Maya said, I'm not asking for your consideration. I'm informing you of what we're doing. The Human Dragon Cooperative isn't asking for permission to help people. We're just doing it. She walked back to the podium, Zephyros's presence a comforting weight on her shoulder. Anyone who wants to join us is welcome. Anyone who wants to keep arguing about theoretical frameworks is welcome to do that too. We'll be too busy solving problems to notice. As she left the chamber, Maya could hear the eruption of discussion behind her. Some species would join the cooperative, others would oppose it, and still others would wait to see which way the wind was blowing. But that was okay. Maya had learned something important from the dragons. You couldn't force people to be sensible. You could only be sensible yourself and hope others would follow your example. Human Maya, Zephyros said as they walked toward their ship, I have a confession to make. Oh? Duration. We knew from the beginning that you understood what we were looking for. Your psychological profile, your approach to problem solving, your tendency to focus on results rather than recognition. We knew you would pass our test. Maya stopped walking. Wait, you knew? The whole time? The whole time? Of course, Zephyros replied, his scales shifting to a shade that Maya had learned indicated amusement. Did you think we would risk centuries of careful observation on a random encounter? But my crewmates. The crash. The whole dramatic setup. All genuine, Zephyros assured her. We simply arranged for you to be the one sent to rescue them. We knew that once you arrived, you would demonstrate exactly the qualities we were looking for. Maya stared at him. You manipulated the entire situation. We created an opportunity, Zephyros corrected. What you did with that opportunity was entirely your choice. Maya thought about this for a moment, then burst out laughing. You sneaky, magnificent bastard. You set up the whole thing. We prefer to think of it as arranged circumstances, Zephyros replied with dignity. And you're telling me this now because? Because, Zephyros said, we wanted you to know that we chose you specifically. Not because you were convenient, not because you were available, but because you were the right person for the job. Maya shook her head, still grinning. Dragons. I should have known you'd have something up your sleeves. We don't have sleeves, Zephyros pointed out. It's a figure of speech, you overgrown lizard. As they boarded their ship, Maya reflected on the past 6 months. She'd gone from being the station's maintenance worker to being one of the most important people in the galaxy. She'd gained the respect of her peers, the friendship of dragons, and the satisfaction of knowing she was actually making a difference. But most importantly, she'd learned that the universe didn't need more sophisticated technology or complex theoretical frameworks. It needed people willing to roll up their sleeves and fix what was broken. And Maya Rodriguez, human engineer, was very good at fixing things. So, she said to Zephyros as their ship lifted off, what's our next project? There's a colony in the Vega system having problems with their water purification system, Zephyros replied. Their government has been debating solutions for 2 years. Maya grinned. Sounds like they need some primitive human solutions. Indeed, Zephyros agreed. The primitive human solution of actually fixing the problem. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, Maya settled back in her chair and pulled out her toolbox. Dragons might be ancient and wise, but they still appreciated a good set of tools. After all, the best technology in the universe was still useless without someone who knew how to use it. And Maya Rodriguez, dragon-chosen representative and professional problem solver, knew how to use everything.